Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Okay, so this is something that I found the other day. I was actually running around in um, Eden's Grove, right? Now, as you can tell, some of these areas are a little bit lower level than others. I wasn't in a level 50 area. I know it definitely wasn't level 50. There is a little bit of a lower level somewhere around here. No, there is. There has to be a place. Because for some reason I know that I ran into level 45 enemies somewhere in these higher up zones, and they weren't able to kill me fast enough, so I got a quick rating on my armor. Unless there's another place with level 45 Angry Earth, which I'm not even sure there is. Wait, there might be, but I doubt it. I strongly doubt it. Could I have actually okay, so it looks like I did make a mistake. Level 45 Angry Earth was actually in Restless Shores. Uh, it does happen from time to time when you teleport and you end up in the wrong place altogether. You see Angry Earth, you separate off a swordsman from the pack and you take the swordsman to the side and you have a little bit of a brawl. Now, what I did was I actually ran a test on the affinity of our armor. Now, there are certain things that you must know. I had two pieces of armor that really didn't make any sense. I had a low level set and I had a high level set. And the difference between the two sets was about a 10 rating in terms of overall physical resistance. So physical resistance was more dominant on the one side. And another thing that really threw off the calculations that I was running with was the fact that the one side of the items that I was looking at had another buff that I was ignoring. They had a resistance buff to bleed and so forth, and I actually tested it out in another area against a dog, because the dogs are the most common enemies and their attacks are pretty much straightforward. You can stand in one spot provided you pin yourself in the right place, and they can beat you up for as long as they want. Okay, so let's continue on with the next part of this topic. But before I get to the topic itself, I have to explain why I actually decided to test this. So I was actually playing the game the one day with comms on, and I was speaking to a console from a company that's become very heavy in PvP. And this console said something to me that it doesn't make any sense, right? As far as I'm concerned, this makes zero sense. He's like, he's never had to play PvE in New World. New World is a pure PvP game. Everything is PvP. So I was like, okay, but what about those who play PvE? He says, yeah, but PvE is super easy. You don't even have to do anything in PvE. You can just do PvP and you can level up straight to level 600. And I was thinking to myself, how in the world did he reach 600 doing just PvP? So I'm thinking to myself, Outpost Rush most likely. And he gives me the answer, oh no, I just PvP flag and I do everything, so it's all PvP. And I was laughing at it because he said the game didn't need PvE. Everything is supposed to be PvP. You're not supposed to run and fight enemies. You're supposed to run with PvP on to fight enemies, because that is the only way the game was meant to function. And yeah, if you're feeling a little bit like, how in the world does that make sense? Trust me, I was on that too. So I was like, so you're saying that in the PvE world is PvP? It said no. In the PvP world, you don't play with PvP. You're just not playing the game properly. And I'm like, what in the world is he talking about? He doesn't get that person versus environment is person versus environment. It's when you are playing a non-person character, NPC. He doesn't understand that. So, you know, you get some people, you have to be a little bit delicate with them. You know, they're not off that level of thinking. Okay, so moving forward, the next thing as part of his argument was he has completed every dungeon without ever dying once. And to be honest, the moment he reached level 60, one of his friends did craft him a full set of Voidband gear, and he literally got through with a full team throughout the entire story. They were together for the entire story. They basically did everything as a group. It's very efficient in a group, and the game can be completed in minimal times, less than a week actually, from level 0 to maxed out. If you have a team with you, it's that easy. Even solo, you can do it quite fast if you know how to break things up appropriately and where to score points, where not to score points, when to score points and when not to score points. All of that makes a massive difference. So yeah, all right, so that is the basis under what this year was done. So when he said that, what struck a nerve with me was his armor rating, his physical armor rating was lower than my physical armor rating, and that was by a full 10 points. Obviously I had some good gear in terms of my regular everyday gear, but I was lacking in terms of gear score. In terms of gear score, I most probably had an average rating somewhere close to 580. As a result, I do add a percentage towards that rating down, but with the jewelry and everything added and my overall level with every item including my weapons, I only had about an 8 level difference in strength. But we will add the 20% just for the sake of adding the difference between the two. Now, physical resistance is physical resistance. It means that you take that much less from physical damage. That means that you are going to be that much more resistant to physical damage. Same with elemental damage resistance, which is what Voidband gear is really strong with. And here's what I found. Going up against a level 45 Angry Earth Swordsman, because they don't apply bleed, they don't apply diseases, they don't apply any type of lingering assault effect. They do push you back every once in a while if they can, but I cornered myself in such a way that I was stuck in a wall, so they could just continuously beat me up non-stop without me being able to get away. And this is the overall finding. My character against a level 45 would last for somewhere in the region of 2 minutes with ordinary PvE gear. Now, the exact time isn't 2 minutes. It is an overall and a round off figure. I'm rounding it off to the nearest 15th of a second, so it'll either be 2 minutes, 2 minutes 15, 2 minutes 30. That is how I intended it to go. So the gear lasted for about 2 minutes. Now, obviously, that's on the lower end as far as you'd be concerned, but in actuality, it's more like the higher end. Generally, the character lasted for 2 rounds at around 1 minute 50 and 1 minute 55, right? So very close to the lower end. You could have actually passed the 2 minute mark in the one, because it literally was right at the end of the 50s. When I say 50s, I mean it can be 1 minute 58 seconds, 1 minute 50, let's see, I'm -7 as my cutoff, so 1 minute 54. It can be anywhere in those regions for the 1 minute 50s. I don't have the footage, it's actually corrupted and I had to delete it, so unfortunate on that. I don't have the ability to show you the testing. But nonetheless, that cost me quite a fortune to repair my gear afterwards when all of that was done, and I conducted this experiment 3 times. So the last one was actually a big surprise when I lasted for over 2 minutes and 28 seconds, so almost a 2 minute 30. Now I can use 2 minute 30 as my time, and actually even if I use 2 minute 30, it isn't going to make a difference against the Voidband gear, and you'll figure it out in a minute, right? So I'll go at 2 minute 30. That there will make it 150 seconds. For my lasting time, I must add 20%, so 150 becomes 30 seconds added to it. That will make it 180 seconds. That equates it to a level 600 piece of gear. My constitution was exactly 300 with the other set of gear. I did dismantle that set of gear. You'll figure it out in a second when I talk about the overall test. So there was the first test I did, and just as I was doing it, I decided before I take off this armor and before anything changes haphazardly, let me test out what happens if I PvP flag. So I PvP flagged at the settlement, not at the settlement, sorry, at the teleporter. I cornered the same swordsman for a second time, and we had a nice little fight. But this time, the results changed. And they changed 3 times over. All 3 tests were all much longer. I went from 2 minutes 30 to 3 minutes 30 seconds. If you're counting that, that's 210 seconds. That's a full 60 seconds over. If you're counting the original time in PvE mode, this is not something that is supposed to be there. PvP is not supposed to buff your armor or buff your damage or anything of the sort. So the complete figure that I ended up with when calculating this was 150 for PvE mode, 210 for PvP mode, giving you around the percentage of 40% improvement for just PvP flagging. Now that in itself says that the game has a major cheat. Now obviously, since it's just one person's findings, it doesn't mean that anything is 100%. It means there might be other effects that aren't being looked at, but it definitely is giving a major boost to my character in forms that I don't understand, and that's just a PvP boost. I don't know if luck affects how many times the enemy can land on me, but even then it should only be 10%, and 10% should mean another 15 seconds added to my time, or 18 seconds added to my time. It's not going to take me up enough to actually make a difference. That would just be 195. It wouldn't reach the 3 minutes for the 3 minutes 30 seconds. Sorry, I was about to say 3 minutes and a fourth of a time, which is so wrong. But nonetheless, yeah, that's where it is. It's a massive difference. So obviously I did that. That is with the regular armor. And then I decided to match it against Void Bent. Now Void Bent has a 20% higher rating in terms of gear against it. Now that is overall, when everything is added and put together, my overall level becomes 580. So since 580 was my overall gear score, I'm going to add 20% to this time. Now you might be thinking, well, didn't you already add the 20%? Doesn't really make a difference. I'm going to do it anyway. That's going to add 36 seconds. Right, 36 seconds to 180 will take me no, actually I'm wrong. $150 plus 30. Sorry, I'm going so far off. I'm actually making a mistake of adding 30% for 20% already. It's going to take me up to around 180, right? So 180 seconds is where it will end up if I'm comparing it at the same sorry, at the same level as Void Bent. That's adding a full 20% to this armor to actually rate it up. Now this is the actual armor breakdown, right? 597, 595, 599, and then there was a 580 and a 580. I'm counting it as 580. You get it? I'm giving them a lot of leeway. So I took the Void Bent set and I go up to this Angry Earth, who only does direct damage, direct bash, direct hits. Everything is direct assault. And fighting him, I last for 5 minutes and something seconds. Now obviously this isn't a small amount of increase. This is a massive increase. And talking about that, that's 5 minutes. 5 minutes translated is 300 seconds. Now obviously there is a discrepancy. I said that if the two levels were drawn equal, the Void Bent should be 180. Remember, their armor rating in physical is actually stronger on the non Void Bent armor. It's stronger on the other way. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, that's what was going on, and I'm thinking, how do I reach this 5 minute time? Now bear with me, it isn't an exact 5 minute time. There was one time of about 5 minutes 5 seconds, which is the lowest time, and then there were 2 times of about 5 minutes 12 12 and 5 minutes 28. So yeah, that is a bit of a heavy pull down to give it 5 minutes, but I figured it would be better than giving 5 minutes 30 and trying to say 330 against 180 and giving another 40% buff to the armor where there shouldn't be a 40% buff to the armor. In case you don't get it, let me show you what I mean. This resistance over here is higher. This resistance is lower. It is way lower. As I said, it wasn't that big of a difference, so they should have been just around the same. To be honest, the Voidband shouldn't have lasted as long as the other set of armor when the buff was added to it. It should have been brought down by about maybe about a second or two, because this physical resistance is a massive figure, and losing a few points doesn't make that much of a time. So 180 seconds is where you're expecting the time to be. Remember, it has a total of 120 seconds advantage, and that's no small fraction. That's 4/5 4/5 if you're counting it all together in that time. 4/5 of the time, no, 2/5 of the time extra is what's being added to it from the original, and that's a massive I'm getting confused on that, sorry. But overall, the result says that something was seriously wrong. Something wasn't adding up between the two armors. So I decided to go and do a little bit more nitpicking and a little bit more digging, and I find something even more alarming wrong when I switch on PvP. I never die. I don't die against level 30 enemies. If anybody catches the video that came before, you'll find that I did mess around with them, and when I have a food buff on, they can just keep hitting me forever and ever, and it's literally gonna get them nowhere. They're just gonna keep hitting me for damage, and it will heal from the food buff, and every time they hit me it just heals. When I PvP flag, for some reason not even a level 45 can put damage on me that actually lasts long enough for the second hit to apply enough damage for me to go down. I just sit with quite a lot of health. It actually does pull me down by small figures, like 10s or 20s. In the start it looks like nothing, then by the end of the second minute I actually lose a couple hundred, and as it keeps going I actually go so far out that the game times out against me. I get a warning of being kicked for inactivity while being beaten up by an enemy. That's how bad the Voidband buff was all of a sudden, and I was just thinking to myself, this can't be right. There has to be something wrong here. My results can't be inconclusive because I can't get a time on my Voidband. So you know what, something is wrong. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'll put it out to somebody else, because in case you think I only tested this 3 times, I actually tested it way more than 3. I think I tested it somewhere near 10 times. Yeah, it's a lot of damage to take. I had to repair my armor a few times in between those tests, because the damage does pile up on the armor even if you don't die. And I had to keep repairing the armor over and over again to reinstitute that test, get the enemy to chase me into that right spot, and have him beat on me for a full, I don't know how long it takes for that timer to engage, because every time it engaged I just deactivate my timer and reset. So yeah, that was the overall basis that I had against Void Armor. And then I just realized to myself, if PvP flagging gives you that much of a boost, there's something wrong. PvP flag should not boost your effective ability against PvE enemies. If somebody else does test this out, this is the method. You get your set of gear, you average the armor set. Like me, don't favor the Voidband so heavy. Remember, your overall set is 600. So you take all 5, you put them together, and you divide them by 5. Wherever it lands between that rating, for every level that you have, you add a percentage. So if your difference between your Voidband set and your regular set, provided the physical armor is identical, or the physical armor is slightly better on your PvE set, or within a range of 50 below, right, because that will make it a big difference. You have to actually do a percentage rating against the two and figure out where it is. Oh, my goodness. actually, I do know how many minutes it is to get kicked, but nonetheless, yeah, that is the whole thing. So inconclusive was the end of the void armor. Never got to the point where I actually died in void armor. Now you might be thinking, doesn't make that big of a difference, because when you're facing dungeons like Genesis and Lazarus, it's just a small difference. Actually, it's a massive difference. If you're counting that, that's a 40% damage reduction for using void armor, and an additional who knows how many percent for PvP flagging. PvP flagging is giving some type of a boost to your character. I don't know what it's boosting beyond what it's supposed to. It's supposed to just be a luck boost. And to be honest, I think they're going to have to turn off all their boosts. So when you PvP flag, you're not going to get a mining boost, none of those boosts. They've done it to our trading station, they've done it to our direct trades. It would be only fair for them to do it to the next set of gear, the next set of items within New World. Now, yeah, that just goes to show. And honestly, if it wasn't for that idiot who, sorry, I can't help laughing at it. If it wasn't for the idiot who says there's no PvE in this game, I would never have known that there was something up with the way things were going, because he never died in an expedition, and his team never ever dies, and they're always PvP flagged. And I was just thinking to myself, I've been into Armorine with very high level gear, physical resistance that's almost 2000 plus, and I've died in there. And okay, yes, when it came to the overall discrepancy in stats, I had no elemental armor resistance, so that made a big difference. And there are elemental damages that are applied, such as the such as the buff that comes from, what do you call it, when they shoot you, that poison damage that they do, because this does actually negate quite a big amount of it if you're looking at it. Resilience, oh yeah, there's it. Invigorate, weakness, disease, exhaust, and render expires 7.5% faster. And this doesn't just apply to this one. Here's it again, same charm again, and drop again, same charm again, drop it one more, there you go, that's 4 times, and 5 times. 5 times 7 is 35, 0.5 times 5 is 2.5, that's 37.25% on those types of effects. That makes a big difference. But if the physical resistance is going up by a significant amount, it makes a massive difference to everything. In terms of perks, as you can see, it has one, this is from the gem slot. Resilience, as you can see, critical deals 4.8% less. I'm gonna act like I didn't see that. It's been ignored from my stats. If you count that in, that will actually make a significant difference. I didn't really count it. So critical damage to you is reduced by 4.8%. What does that equal to across 5 pieces? You can take it as 5. 25% reduction in critical damage to you, 25% reduction on heavy hits against you, especially when you don't offer any defense. So the critical hit you basically all the time. Actually, no. Critical hits hardly ever land from enemies. Every once in a while they do get a critical. So yeah, it would make a difference adding it on. I already put 50, so I would only have to add 15%. 210 seconds is what it should last. Still a discrepancy. It is not a small discrepancy, it's still huge. In case you want me to add the full 25% just to give the generous figure, I'll add it. That's going to give. Okay, wait, let's add everything together. Even though the exhaust, render, and the stuff are all not there, I added 20% for the level. Add 25%. 25% of 185 would be 25% of 185. Oh man. It'll be about 40%. So 1.8 times 4, that's 1 minute, that's 60 seconds, and 3 times 4, 12 seconds, so that will be 72 added to it. It still doesn't do it. I don't get to 300. I actually was very far from 300, was highly unlikely to get there, but yeah, as you can see, it still doesn't reach the armor rating. I am a lot closer, and the figures look a lot less all of a sudden from my standpoint. From 185 seconds, I'm giving them 5 seconds. I'll add 75 seconds to it. That'll take it up to 190. Add 70 to that will make it 260. That's still a 40-second discrepancy between the two sets of gear. 40 seconds isn't a small amount, actually. 40 seconds as a grand total for the two works out to a considerable percentage, especially against the other one. 260, 40 would be 1/8. 1/8 of a difference between the two in terms of resistance. And remember, I did say that the other one was physical resistance more dominant, and I have been very generous towards it, because when you add up those actual figures, I'm not really that far below in terms of the first charge, the one which takes it up to 185. It's actually a lot lower. Yeah, anybody who did do the math would know that it's 5 plus 40, that gives you 45, and you divide that by 5, that gives you 9. That would mean I was actually somewhere near 290. I should have added 9% and then done all of this additions. Makes no difference. You're still short on the figures. The figures should be unbelievably close. They should be less than 1% in difference. So basically, if the one was 3 minutes, the other should have been far less, right? And obviously, when PvP was active, the figures don't make any sense. For it to pass 210 was ridiculous, to say the least. They should have been exactly the same. It could be a lag factor that I'm adding, but yeah, that's something that we need to see. And if it is a problem, they may have to disable that PvP bonus completely, rework it and revamp it, and then reintroduce it. Obviously, I don't want it to come back. I'm hoping that it doesn't come back if it is flawed. Even if it isn't flawed, I hope that it is removed from the game completely. The reason is quite simple. We have a PvE world. Keep it PvE. The PvP only causes negativity. Let's see, what can I relate to it? The server I'm on. Let's just open up this here. There's a message, right? Mangled. Less than 5 days ago, we used to get more than 40 messages in a minute. You can count a minute here if you'd like. This video is going on for almost 30 minutes in a few minutes. But yeah, watch it, let the timer go, read how it goes. Mangled already going. Question. Alright, I'm just sitting quiet for a little bit because this is quite a heavy one. As I said, we had over 60 messages in a minute. That's because people were so heavy on the server that we had to have teams forming all at once for both PvP and PvE, and the messages would go insane. If you think these figures here look busy, okay, we can count out company recruitment. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to act like that wasn't something. But here's what happened. Over the course of the past few days, a group of PvP flagged individuals have been murdering everybody who PvP flags and heads into Murkard. So what they would do is they'd break up into two teams. One would hide on the side of the outpost overlooking the bottom, so the moment the PvP team would run down, they jump off. The other would sit in Murkard right near the entrance, and the moment they'd start to come down, they'll both descend on them before they reach the entrance of Murkard and slay the entire team. Then they'll go and stand on top of the camps and slay everybody who respawns. Finally, they'll come back to the station and then they'll still keep their little spot, at which point they will log out of the game for several seconds. It's a ploy that they were playing. They had somebody on the game who was telling them when they launched for the second time, because it was guaranteed being done like this here. And all of a sudden, when the team reaches that point again, all of the PvP flag players are all around them again for a second round, where they get wiped and get wiped again on the spawn. So yeah, they were doing that intentionally. I think that is a real toxic way of behaving, and this wasn't just occurring at Murkards or the mines. This was occurring in every single level 60 farming area, every place where portals were running, every place that an elite was running. The PvP flags were killing other PvP flags and then completing it on their own. Now obviously there is something real toxic, and unfortunately I am part of the faction that was being the most toxic when it came to this. They were flagging and fighting other people intentionally. They were picking on yellows and greens, who are lower in number on the server. They're the underdogs, as it would be. They are way under us in terms of numbers. And just to show what that means, you see this 1, 2, 3, 4 held areas. They are a miracle for them to hold. In fact, they're actually holding another one at the bottom, the 5th. It's really a very difficult thing for them to hold all of them. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 being held by purples and 1 being held by yellows. This is all because of the amount of, how should I put this, the amount of conflict between the factions. Yellows are really outnumbered. A lot of the factions who were yellow abandoned them to go purple. Yeah, I'm really sorry for being part of one of those factions. Being a traitor isn't regularly my thing to do, but yeah, we betrayed you guys, and we're really sorry for that. If you are from the Vega server, yeah, we're sorry that y'all are in such a heavy situation. This is purely the result of the purple factions. They're a little bit too toxic. They tried to go a little bit too heavy on the PvP side. They wanted too much of dominance just for themselves, and the only reasons why you're fighting with the greens on a continuous basis is the purples are allowing enemies to attack their territories and then they fight them. They generally push down any bars that you press up unless they want a fight in that particular area. So yeah, that's unfortunate. In terms of the greens, the yellows, it's just not a comparison. It's basically of a 5-to-1 ratio generally when they're meeting up in combat. So a 25 versus 5 or a 50 versus 10. That's generally what you're seeing when the purples fight any of the other colors. I know there was a yellow team that literally all unflag and run mines and Murkard every single day now because of how bad they were being hit, and that implement of that luck bonus is just absolute trash. You've ruined the game for dozens of players. You've actually taken out the enjoyment of the activity, and that is my message to the devs. You'll need to really think about what that bonus is doing. You'll need to work on it, and especially if it is giving that 10% buff, you are making it drastically unfair, because a team of regular players who are PvE flagged running through Murkard can never equate a team of PvP flagged people running through Murkard with that type of boosting of 40% without any reason. I don't know who can justify it, but yeah, if that really is the situation, to be honest, when the servers are resting on 20,000 people around the world and they start merging intercontinental servers together, we'll know why. So yeah, that's just the basics of this whole thing. So yeah, anybody else out there, remember to conclude your test the same way. Remember, run 3 individual tests on each set of armor that you're using. Run 3 PvP flagged, run 3 PvP unflagged, run 3 in a regular set of gear, run 3 in void bank here, compare the two sets of stats, and at the end of the day, if everything is exactly the way that I'm suspecting it, we can file a complaint to the dev team. And you know what, at the rate they fix problems, sometime near December they might just fix this problem for us, and we might have a whole new set of enjoyable gameplay. So yeah, we can look forward to December if I am correct. And that's going to be about it from me today. I hope that you all do test this out, and I hope you enjoy my content even though I'm doing terrible content. See you all then, and have a good day.